Well, hello, everybody. This is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine. Welcome to the Rattlecast. We're the biggest freewheeling live stream poetry podcast on the planet, in your ears, not in your laptops. Our guest for episode number 324 is Ron Koertge. He'll be here in a few minutes, but before we begin, I should say that Rattle is a publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit working to promote the practice of poetry. We've been in continuous publication since 1995 and are unaffiliated with any other organization. We just do all this if you love poetry. And you do too, so please do click on that like button and share. Make sure you're subscribed. Ring the bell for notifications. Leave reviews on iTunes or Spotify or Amazon Music or wherever you're listening to this after the fact. Whatever you can do to help spread poetry around helps, so click something right now. And now we're going to start out like we always do with our Poets Respond poem. And we had another great one from Bob Hicok, who comes often into our Poets Respond door with some news poems. And this is his first one in a year or two. But a really powerful one. And Bob says about this, it's this article about the K-shaped economy and how really, the economy's bifurcated between the haves and the have-nots pretty much. And of course, we've heard that before, the old Dickinson classic. But Bob says this about that going on right now. He says, Joni Mitchell's lyric, I wish I had a river to skate away on, often gets stuck in my head this time of year. I understand avoidance, it's 87% of what I'm made of, but don't understand why helping each other remains so hard. And here's his poem about that news story, and I'll read it for him. Here it is. The naivete and potential embarrassment of proposing an empathy-shaped economy while living in a K-shaped economy isn't lost on me so much as I think it's more important to give a fuck. So that's the title, one of those long titles, and here's the poem. That someone looked at the letter K and realized it expresses economic disparity more efficiently than a drawing or sculpture or interpretive dance or a teeter-totter with a mountain on one side and a grain of sand the other makes me want to put a hat on so I can tip my hat in their direction. I'm not sure how an O-shaped economy would work, if money can flow in a circle like a river that never begins and never ends, or if money makes me think that we are stupid or cruel or both, unlikely and uninterested in change, or just busy getting by, to imagine a better way to get by. I think of poverty more in winter, when people die in the cold and we talk a lot about football instead, and this new movie, or that old movie that's way better and don't collectively slap our foreheads while uttering some deeply guttural duh about having all these heated rooms and blankets and, dare I say, love going unused. Where you are on the K, whether the upsloping limb or downfalling branch, probably determines how you fill in those blanks. Capitalism is to blank as colorectal surgery is to blank. But I'm losing the thread. The question isn't, dare I say love, but how dare I not? That was Bob Hicok commenting on the news, on the current economy for our poet today on Poets Respond. If you'd like to share a poem about current events, all you have to do is go to rattle.com, submit a poem by midnight. We publish something written in the last week about something that happened in the last week every Sunday morning. That could be you. If you have such a poem, please do share it. And also, if you don't yet, you get those poems in your inbox, in your email. Go to rattle.com at the very bottom, sign up for a daily poem by email, and that'll get you those, including poems by Bob sometimes, and hopefully your own as well. Now we're going to take a quick break and go to our main guest, Ron Koertge. So sit tight and we'll be right back with a whole lot more poetry. And we're back. Like I said, today's guest is Ron Koertge. Ron first appeared in episode number 47. A prolific writer, Ron began publishing in the 60s, including many novels for young adults, and is two-time winner of the PEN Literary Award for Children's Literature. Author of over 20 books of poetry, his most recent is Pandora's Kitchen, just out from Red Hen Press. And you can find all his stuff at ronkoertge.com. That's RONKOERTGE.com. And here he is, Ron Koertge. It's great to see you again, Ron. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. Nice to see you too. From California to Texas. Don't keep moving west and south, or east and south.
Yeah, definitely. I started in LA and then moved up to Wrightwood and then just keep going. And it's nice to be out here where it's a little safer these days.
Okay.
But it's always a pleasure to have you on. You came up to Wrightwood for that Wrightwood Literary Festival we did. And, it's just such a treat to hear you share your work. One of the things I was thinking about reading your book is how valuable it is to have poems that are good that make it seem easy, Like it feels like you're having fun and playing through all the poems in Pandora's Kitchen. And it's just such a treat to have that as something to look up to. It makes you think like I could do that too. And then I think it encourages a lot of people to have fun with poetry like you do. So I really appreciate that aspect especially.
I'm glad my poems feel that way. I started writing under the influence of Ed Field, a poet, a friend of mine who's approaching 100 years old, or 95 anyway. And I also under the auspices of Jerry Loughlin, who could be a more easygoing poet than that? And sort of the stand-up school of poems, the Charles Harper Webb, Suzanne Lummis anthology of maybe a couple of decades ago. The If the poems look easy, it's because I work hard on them, right? I have a lot of rough drafts. I live with them pretty much ever since I retired. I write every day, and I go back and I look at poems that kind of call to me. And I don't always write well. I assure my students that's the truth. But I always write. I'm an old-fashioned blue-collar farmer's son kind of worker, and I like it. I have a lot of energy. I put it there, and sometimes things work out.
Yeah, well, let's hear one of the poems from this new book, Ron. And the book is Pandora's Kitchen, and they're all sort of poems with mythological or cultural myths at their basis, kind of spinning off of. And you start with Nancy Drew, the first one you want to share.
Yes, I'm not gender fixed. I write poems from points of view of women, animals, men, giants. This is Nancy Drew. And this would be perfect read by a middle school girl. When I was being flown around the country by my kids' book publisher, I would try to find a young woman to read this kind of poem. But tonight we have me, Nancy Drew. I can't go to the drugstore without stumbling over a mystery. There I am in aisle 11 when an owl with a message lands by the Listerine. Next thing I know, I'm in a secret passage. I get kudos from my friends Bess and George, who watched me solve the case of the born-again badger. Another key to the city, another pat on the back. I have a boyfriend, Ned Nickerson, but no time to fall in love. Given all the mossy mansions, scarlet slippers, haunted windmills, and forgotten cities clamoring for my attention, I don't mind being busy, but no one knows how lonely I am, how long the nights, the moon's white light revealing yet another body by the gazebo.
Yeah, and that's Nancy Drew. Again, we're reading poems from Ron's new book, Pandora's Kitchen. So, Ron, what can you tell us about how this book came to be put together? You said now that you're retired, you write every day. How did you figure out writing every day what should go together in this collection?
Well, I wish I had a more sophisticated answer. I shuffle things around. If I got maybe 50 pages for a book, maybe more, I lay them out on the floor of this studio behind me, and I walk around. They're all there. I walk around, I look down at them, and then I start shuffling them around and seeing if there's some through line or spine that will hold the book together. Pretty soon things occur to me. And then if I'll take one out and put it somewhere else, I can feel the electricity kind of short. So then I put it back until my whole floor is kind of humming. And then I know I've probably got the poems the way I want.
Well, you mentioned, writing in the voice of a young girl in this Nancy Drew poem. And one of the things, I think you told the story when we were doing an interview for the print issue of Rattle. It was issue number 40 that you were interviewed in, about coming to write young adult novels, and how a friend of yours said that you're immature, so you should write for 16-year-old boys. And so you did. You
I
talked about going
did.
across the library and picking out a young adult novels and seeing how they ticked, and then giving your hand a shot at it. But what do you think about immaturity is actually an advantage? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it is for me. The woman I was talking to is named Meryl Joan Gerber. She was a popular young adult author in 20 or 30 years ago. I remember going across to that library and picking out a book at random and reading it. And and I think I said to my wife at the time, God, I can do this. So I sat down and I started to write because, like you said about my poetry, I have a very light touch with things. So I had a light touch with this story. It went along, pretty well. And I don't mind being immature. I don't mind being callow. I remember how miserable it was to be young and callow, but now I'm looking back at it, from the castle of adulthood. I'm looking over the parapets. Um, I remember how much fun I had writing this. And I said to Cherry Jean, I said, I hope I can get another idea for a second book because the money was good. My editor was really nice. Liz Bicknell from Candlewick. She's very close, very warm. And it was a terrific experience because poetry can be, you get a lot of rejections. My agent sold that book to the second place that he submitted it to. So why wouldn't I love writing for kids?
And that, I think, applies to your poetry in some way too. I mean, it must. I think one thing I keep thinking of is Brendan Constantine, who I think there in L.A. He talks about like writing poetry with the mind of an alien. I think he put it, like, who doesn't know what's going on. Like, what is this thing? You get in the door and the door's closed, and then you go up and like it's an elevator. But like, what does an alien know? And he
Yeah.
thinks about that fresh look at the world, in a way that there's a way that we like all revere maturity, but then being mature is being like stultified in some way. And so having a chance to be immature seems to give you fresh eyes at things. And I think so much of your work is like having a fresh look at something as if for the first time, or as if it's new, even though it's something we've seen before. Would you think that that's a big component of what you do?
I think it is. You can't monetize old age, but you can monetize immaturity, And Brendan, I'm a big fan of Brendan's. I mean, he ends a poem as well as anybody I've ever seen. And sometimes if I'm working in the morning and I'm a little stranded, I'll go read somebody else. And sometimes I just read Brendan because he comes in hot, like an airplane, but he lands safely. But in a way I might not have imagined, knowing Brendan, he'll land backwards. Yet the wheels are on the ground, all the passengers are safe.
Well, let's read another book or poem, Ron, from the book.
Sure.
What do you want to read next?
Well, I have them in the order that I sent them to you, and so I'll just read, down the list until there's no more. The second poem I had is this one called has quotes around it. The title is "Jagged Blade Found in Cake Destined for Inmate." Well, this isn't a cartoon. Remember the old cartoons where the wife or girlfriend would be making a cake and there'd be a file and it was going to go in the cake and then it would go to her boyfriend and he would saw through the bars. Well, I went ahead and took the mini headline. So here's the poem. Jagged blade found in cake destined for inmate. But a wily guard probes, carries everything to Warden Hardin, who closes the door so they can take turns licking icing off the blade, imagining that inmate's wife. Recipe on the cutting board, fingerprints disguised by gold medal flour. What would it be like, they wonder, if someone loved them that much?
It's another
This
poem.
poem
Yeah.
turns up in a magazine, a brand new magazine published by a lawyer who works with incarcerated men. And he told me how popular this poem was in prison, which I thought was great. I mean, I'll take a fan anywhere. So if I have these convicts passing a poem around, which is a wonderful visual, I'm happy to take it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely. And do you with that in mind, because your poems are so accessible and enjoyable for a reader, do you have that as part of what you're thinking about, or are you more focused on amusing and entertaining yourself with the poems that you write? Do you have the, or is it one and then the other? How does that aspect of writing
I
come
don't,
into?
yeah, I don't think I ever think of the former. I'm always having a good time. When I'm having a good time, I know my reader will have a good time. I mean, Bianca will ask me every day when I come out of the studio, how did your work go? And I say, oh my God, it was terrible. It was sophomoric, it was infantile in the worst sense. I was bogged down. I couldn't get the right word and the wrong word was worse. And she says, you'll be better tomorrow. And it is better tomorrow. But if I'm not entertaining myself, what's the phrase in poetry? No fun for the writer, no fun for the reader.
Well, that's a great take on it. Um, did it take a while to cultivate that sense of the failure, the poems that don't work, the ones that come out flat and trite and you don't like, and forgiving yourself for that? Was that something that you had to learn how to do?
Um, I'm pretty forgiving. I don't discard much in the garbage can sense of the word. I put poems aside and I come back to them. Um, I mean, I don't ask them if they want to sit up in the coffin and come out, but I probe around on them. I like to feel connections. Also read every morning. I go to the Poetry Foundation, or I'll go to Rattle, or I'll go to the American Academy of Poets. I like to read people who are different than I am. I've been reading the language poets, Ron Silliman and those guys. Um, no one could be more different than from me. I can't get this balance up. No one could be more different than Ron Silliman and Ron Koertge. But there's some things in the language poets that I find effervescent. And if I can bring the effervescence to my work, then it'll help me get where I want to go, which is to please people, to make them happy. I used to get letters about my young adult novels from kids. This is before email. And they would say to me, you just made my day. I was feeling crummy. I read this book of yours, Stoner and Spaz. It was so funny. And I just wanted to write and tell you. So that's worth a lot.
Yeah, yeah, definitely is. Let's hear another poem. Ron, books on
Okay.
tape.
Good. Books on tape it is. Books on tape is a little screed because I don't like books on tape. And I think the new phrase is audiobooks. If anything, it's worse. So this is my complaint about books on tape. And it starts with, I don't want to listen to a story while I cook. I don't want to be distracted while I sort laundry into cold or hot. I love the aroma of the page. I love the paragraph with its ghostly pilcrow. I love the sentence, often sinuous and dressed in Playfair font. I even love the decisive period, disputable Oxford comma, exclamation point once called the note of admiration. I don't want some actor's voice hurrying me along. I want to read slow as butter melting, Or maybe turn the page so fast I feel an agreeable breeze. That's me on the porch. Iced tea, blue couch, cat at my feet, book in my lap where it belongs.
Yeah. So that was Books on Tape by Ron Koertge from Pandora's Kitchen, his newest book from Red Hen Press. Um, I wanted to ask more this time around about your young adult novels and how that affects your writing of poems and what the interplay is. I mean, and first of all, I've seen you say that the sort of the muse gets upset when you write novels because and you have to entice her back
Oh,
to
and
write
yeah,
poems. Do you
the muse is jealous.
do you still feel that the different poetry and prose are kind of at odds, like a different way of thinking, or do you think that it's a similar way of thinking, but then in practice that changes?
Um, I've always written a lot. I've always been prolific. I've never been cowed by forms. I like to write and fail at sestinas or ghazals. So I didn't have a lot of trouble transitioning. I carried kind of like the laurel wreath, right, of poets. I wore that when I was writing prose. I know how to pick the right word and put it in the right place. That definition between poetry and prose, of prose being words in their right order and poetry being the right words in the right order, I bow to that. I mean, I love that idea, but it isn't that I didn't struggle, but I don't wrestle with the prose. I don't wrestle with the muse. I'm appeasing. I put in my time. And I always feel things will turn out all right. And I know that's Panglossian, but that's how I do it.
Yeah, one of the things that you mentioned for helping with prose, especially, is the Hemingway trick, right? Do you want to
Yeah.
explain what that is?
Well, there's two. Do you mean the iceberg theory? Or do you
Yeah.
mean yeah. I
Hmm.
believe in the iceberg theory. Um, and the iceberg theory is you don't see much on the surface, but there's a whole lot going on underneath. And I'm a metaphor guy. I was brought up in a coal town, Coal, however you spell coal this evening. Outside of our town, the ground was on fire. There was a fire in one of the coal mines that couldn't be put out. My idea of good prose is to have the page on fire, and the flames that are licking up are the right words in the right order. And then if it catches fire, it will inflame, in the best sense, the reader.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, Another thing that was interesting about the two is that I've seen you say that because there's a complaint that young adult novels are formulaic, and I saw you say in an interview that well, sonnets are formulaic too,
Yeah.
and in that comparison, do you feel because there is this sense that we write from some kind of like emotional passion, and there's not a formula involved. Like I saw somebody use AI. I think it was Richard Krawczyk, who used AI to analyze and then write a poem. And it was really interesting how much came out about that poem's like formal structure. That humans like the way that I turn here and here and here is kind of what the AI was saying. And there is so much of a structure to poetry, but we often pretend that it doesn't exist unless it's a formal poem. So, do you think of poems that way that have similar arcs to stories? And do you think of structure on that level of making a poem work?
I think I sense it more than I think about it. Um, I have a good ear, so I trust my ear. When I write in the mornings, I walk around the studio and I read out loud. It tells me everything I want to know about the poem. The arc is bigger. But YA novels have changed in the last decade. You can do things and, in a sense, get away with things that you wouldn't get past the gatekeepers a decade or 2 decades ago. A really good young adult novel will cross over to adult writing. The last young adult novel I wrote was a book called Coal Town Jesus. And in the book, the boy prays his little brother, his older brother, has committed suicide. And he prays to God to help his mother, who is bereft. And Jesus appears in his bedroom and they start talking. Well, Jesus is like me. Jesus is snarky. He won't take anything seriously. But this book was down the middle of the page. And I remember telling Bianca at the time, I'm not sure I can write another book where every word counts like this. I can't get 90 pages. Yet, 2 or 3 years ago, this guy I taught with, Gary Schmidt, in an MFA program, emailed me and asked if I wanted to write a book with him. And he gave me the pitch, 25 kids on a beach for one day. You said, you take 12, I'll take 12, and we'll see what we have. And I wrote that with so much energy. I was so happy to get back to prose again, but I was writing sketches, 125 words or more, maybe less, for every kid. And those were like the stepping stones that took me back into fiction.
Hmm. Where do you think the energy comes from? Because you do have so much energy. It's like you never run out of ideas, it seems, and you always have, coals in the fire, or pokers
Yeah,
in the fire, pokers in the coals, whatever that expression is.
whatever.
Yeah. How do you keep like what is the source of that energy? Because sometimes the muse does abandon you, and it seems like you switch genres and change things up. But where do you think the what you're drawn to write about comes from?
Well, I mean, I think my place in the universe is in the doorway between the finite and the infinite. So the infinite's out here, the finite is the poem on the page. My job is to stand there alert and open the door for whatever wants to come through. It's energizing to invite poems into my life. That's what I do every morning. Um, I mean, I'm there with open arms. I'm blessed with relative good health. I take pretty good care of myself for someone who's 86. Thank you very much. So while I have the energy and while I have the literal life force, this is what I'm put on earth to do, to stand in the doorway, invite the poems and the prose through.
But how do what is something worth picking up at the doorstep and what's not? Um, d- is there a way that you just grab everything and see what takes you somewhere? Or, when you sit
Well,
down
so
in the morning to write, how do you know where to go?
usually I've been reading somebody else or somebody else's for maybe under an hour. I mean, I'm at the moment trying to memorize the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. I was with some poetry friends a while ago, and there was a guy I didn't know who could recite poems endlessly. I really envied that. So I'm walking around, I'm reading Eliot, I'm reading Elizabeth Bishop. When I get the music in my head, I can open the door and the music will invite the poem to step forward. That's how I do it.
Yeah. Hmm. And with a sense of inviting and not knowing what will come, I guess, right?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know what will come. Some of the poems hobble through, right? They don't burst through, clouds of glory. But I go ahead and see what I can do, with the impaired. I'm good at the wounded. I like to write about the wounded. So if they're that way, they're welcome too. Everybody's welcome here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's hear the next poem, Travel
Okay.
Diary.
Travel diary it is. This is a four stanza poem, and in the middle, the third stanza is one line. This poem is a favorite of a friend of mine, Lindsay Hill, who wrote a really interesting experimental novel called Tidal Lock, which is Byzantine, whereas, my poems are just sit back and relax. Here's the poem, Travel Diary. In this country, there are deities everywhere. Each grotto and bay has a god or goddess living among, sometimes, the candy wrappers and condoms. A shrine, the guide tells us, is always a shrine. Someone frowns and points, but this trash is disgusting. In your world, whispers the guide, it's Jesus this and Jesus that. But here, the gods are more like you and me.
Yeah. And so that was Travel Diary by Ron Koertge, again from Pandora's Kitchen, his newest book. Um, so you can talk a little bit about, again, sort of that sense of immaturity is part of it, but breaking rules and how important it is to break rules for you, because it does feel like that comes into play a lot.
I don't think of myself as an iconoclast. I don't know what rules I'd be breaking. I mean, if I write a sonnet that doesn't rhyme, I'll just call it a sonnet anyway. And if it doesn't have iambic pentameter, but it's got, pizzazz, if it's rolling right along, I'm happy to call it a sonnet. What rules do you think I'm breaking? I
Um,
mean, you tell me.
well, I mean, you already talked about trying to push past the gatekeepers of the young adult novels, and Stoner and Spaz was one of the most stolen books from
Yeah.
libraries. It does feel like, I don't know. You can say you're not an iconoclast, but it feels like you don't appreciate people telling you how things should be, and also being a young adult novelist and a poet at the same time is something that people say you shouldn't do, probably, right?
That's partly true. Yeah, I had a friend, the poet Steve Cowett. Remember Steve, a terrific
Hmm.
guy, a dear friend, has been gone at least a decade, if not more. And Steve would chide me all when we go see him, Steve and his wife Mary. Steve would scold me, literally tell me I'm wasting my life and my talent writing fiction. But it beckons to me, Tim. The stories beckon to me. I like to see them unfold. I like to do the old trick of, remember, to be Hemingway again. Hemingway said to never end a section or a chapter and then leave your work for the day. He wrote, and I write, and I'll stop in the middle of a sentence rather than end the chapter, even if the chapter is going to be 10 more words. Because the next morning, I will get up, read through that, and the momentum will carry me through. And then I'm into the next day's. In my case, I used to write 4 pages a day of prose. So when that was it. When that was over, I could go to the movies, I could go to the races, I could do anything I wanted.
Do you do that with poems too? Like, do you have poems halfway done?
I do. Yeah, I do. I used to be a little, I don't know, kind of tight-assed about poems, and I don't want to, I can't be disturbed. I'm going to close the door. I'm this and that. I'm a little older and more mellow now. I can stop a poem in the middle, help Bianca with something, and go back and pick up the poem.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I need help with, because I do feel like it's so hard to get into it, and then so hard to get back into it. I guess equally hard. Um, for as far as the audience goes, do you find there's much crossover between the young adult stuff and the poetry? Like, do you think people discover poetry because they read a Ron Koertge novel and then say, hey, I wonder what else this guy does, and picks up the poetry? Or do they stay pretty much firewalled? I know it's different presses usually and things like that.
The only reason I know they cross over is when people email me and tell me, or write me a letter in the old days and tell me. And people don't do that as much. They aren't as complimentary as they used to be. People are overwhelmed.
Mhm.
They have way too much to do to write to the poet. The novel makes a bigger impression, let's face it. So that's the answer to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how do you think? One thing I worry about a lot is just the trajectory that literature is headed. It just feels like more. I was talking to my daughter the other day, um, about how it feels like to her there's no like central music. We were listening to Fleetwood Mac while doing the dishes, and it was
Yeah.
like, and it was before my time, by a decade, but there's a sense that like there was a collective energy from a culture, that drew people to certain music, and everybody had sort of a collective experience, and people all, a movie would come out and everyone would sort of see the same movie. People would be talking about the big movie of the season or whatever. And that just feels like everything is so fragmented in there's overwhelmed too, like overwhelmed with choice and so many things we could do, so many things to read, that there's no like singular experience. And it feels like like what we're chasing and what we want to be as writers is like a singular experience for the collective. You know, we want to be part of that voice that shapes the way people think and be meaningful. And it feels like that's almost impossible now, given you know, I mean, what she was talking about is that nobody in her high school, they all listen to different music. Like there's no like, I was like, who's the one pop star now, or the handful of people that I don't know about but I should? And she's like, oh, there's really not any, Dad. Everybody listens to their own thing. and and it feels like it's difficult to be a writer in a situation like that, where, you know, if you had 5 readers who loved you, that's not enough to be a writer, you know? And so being so fragmented, having so many options seems like it really is a problem for publishing and literature generally. Do you feel that, having had the sense of how things have moved over the decades?
I keep my friends close. Most of my friends are writers, and I want that tight-knit community. I don't stray from that very much. I don't listen to the news. I don't read the newspaper. You know, I mean, it's easy to say, and you hear a lot of people say it. It's bad for me. It's bad for my mind. It's bad for my spirit. The muse does not like that crap. You know, I don't do that. I'm not a polluter.
Well, that's a really interesting way to put it, not being a polluter. When did you start, you know, you stopped paying attention to the news? How did you realize that it's bad for you? Because I definitely see that too. And I wonder, you know, we have Poets Respond and we have poems about the news every week. And I do wonder if just encouraging people to react even to the news um, encourages people to pay attention to the news. And I think, you know, in a lot of ways, it is toxic. You know, so much is not true, first of all. So much is geared and designed to just make you upset. So there's this whole like outrage industry. And I don't know what good actually comes of knowing like the things that people talk about. So how did you realize that you shouldn't do that? That it was toxic to the muse?
Well, Tim, it made me feel bad. I mean, it's simple. You know, it's like if you drink too much and it makes you feel bad, you don't drink that much anymore. The news makes me feel bad. You know, the paranoia, the racism, the nastiness, the screaming. If there's anything I hate, it's noise. You know, poetry is not noise. When it is, it's beautiful noise. But I'm more so in the last couple of years, as far as not listening to news, not reading the newspaper. Um, I mean, you know, that's where I am right now.
Yeah, yeah. Another Pasadena poet, Lester Graves Lennon. He was on a few years ago, and I always remember him. He said, "I don't want to add to the noise," and that
Yeah.
just seems like such a great piece of advice, you know. And so much
Yeah.
does just add to the noise, um, but poetry doesn't, which is what makes it special, I think.
No, poetry adds to the music.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, let's hear the next poem up, Ron.
Sure. My list says it's Girl Scouts from Space. I love this poem, by the way, because in it I get to do the voice of the alien overlords. And I love to do that. And also, it has a backstory. I have a lot of nieces, and one of them told me this story about she and one of her classes, fourth or fifth grade, went to a living assistance center to sing. And on their way out, my niece's friend, a Chinese American girl, one of the old people told her to go back to China. And I thought, oh my God. But at the same time, it was welcome news because I knew there was a poem there. So here's the poem called Girl Scouts from Space. Willow and Shui Ming ride their bikes into the desert to earn environmental stewardship badges. They barely settled in when a saucer lands. The girls feel dizzy and hold on to each other. The door in the craft opens and the aliens descend. They're thin, with heads like volleyballs, and their voices are reedy. We know, Willow, how weekends with your father and his new girlfriend are excruciating. And Shui Ming, even though you sang beautifully at the assisted living center, someone told you to go back to China. Your sighs reached us as we passed Venus. As scouts ourselves, we know something about the dark machinery that runs your world. We applaud your interest in coding and horseback riding, but you have also earned the heartbreak badge. Congratulations. When you wake up, it will be pinned to your colorful sashes.
Yeah, so that is Girl Scouts from Space, another poem from Pandora's Box. And you do voices really, really well in poems, right? And maybe it's partly the novelist coming out, but I love the one where you have this letter written. It's from Rattle, and it's a letter written from a sort of secret service saying that they've watched you and are paying attention to the letter you accidentally received. and,
Yes, I
and the
remember
voice
that
of
book.
that is, even though there's no like indication really that it's in a voice, like the voice really comes out of like this sort of bureaucrat who has way too much power. I think.
Right.
Do you have any advice for people on doing that? Because we poets spend so much time developing their own voice that maybe we don't spend as much time as we should developing other voices. Do you have any advice on getting a voice down?
Yeah, I tell you what I do. I have a friend who's a dramaturge, which means he reads 150 or more plays a year. And he and I gamble together. We're horse players, and he lives in down by Irvine. And Jerry sends me plays that he thinks I might like. There is nothing like reading plays to give yourself a different voice
Hmm.
because the characters, and I read these out loud. I take the roles and I read them until the voices are like what I would hope an actor's or actress's voice would be. So my advice, you can get these from the library, you can get them online. I read plays, I don't know, one or two a week that Jerry sends me. It really helps.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that's definitely interesting advice. If anybody has any questions for Ron, I should say, leave them in the chat window either on Facebook or YouTube, and I'll pass them along. Also, if you haven't yet, click the like button. The more people who click like always helps more people watch poetry in the future, and every little click helps. There's already a question, Ron, from Dick Westheimer, who wanted you to talk a little bit more about the process of coming back to a partly written poem. Do you think the poem turns differently or better when interrupted?
That's a nice question, and it varies from poem to poem. Um, if something happens to me on my way back to finish the poem, if I've gone over to, help Bianca with something or start the laundry or stop the laundry, I'll often pick up another book or a magazine, and I really, like I'll pick up Rattle, I'll pick up whatever I've got around me. There will be a little fire on that page that will carry me into the unfinished poem and make it different than if I hadn't read what I read on the way back from Bianca to my studio. So it depends on what I read. It depends on how much of the poem I've carried around in my head while I was doing laundry or helping my wife. But I can feel the string, being pulled back through, and I just come on back and see what I've got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's a great way to approach writing, I think. So really good advice for everybody. Let's do another poem. Let's do Lot's Wife next.
Yeah. Lot's Wife is a two-character play, as a matter of fact. It's nothing but dialogue. And the characters are Persephone, and for the record, Persephone is Hades' wife. He kidnapped her, and she's stuck in the underworld for 6 months of the year. You can look up the myth, which is really interesting. We all know Lot's wife, if you know anything about your Bible. She was the one, and she mentions this in the poem, the one who was ordered not to look back. So this is a two-character poem, and Lot's wife is in the first stanza. Then it goes Lot's wife, Persephone, Lot's wife, Persephone. Persephone is much younger. In the myth, she must not be 15 years old. But the gods want what the gods want. So Here's Lot's wife meeting Persephone in the underworld. Lot's wife begins. This isn't all that bad, Lot's wife says. My husband was hard to take. It is gloomy here, though. I know. I know. It's like Hades is worried about the light bill, right? I see him around, your husband, your Hades, keeping tabs, all that jewelry. He would have been popular in Sodom. I'm about to go up to the other world and spend the summer with my mom. Can I bring you back something? I'm fine. I've made some friends, women. I've had my fill of everybody else. Oh, you're still cute. We should get you out of those Old Testament duds. Lot wanted to dress me like a shrub. Oh God, Hades is like yoga pants, more tatas. Look, let's go to my place. I've got like tons of swag. You know, I look back when God said not to, right? Oh, who cares? I know a lot of gods. If a person listened to them, she'd never do anything.
Yeah, so that's Lot's wife meets Persephone in the underworld, and a good example of that. You know, having a thought and throwing two things together and then seeing what happens. You know, having no idea where that discussion, I'm sure, was going to go.
Well, I taught more students when I was, even a bit younger, but I used this poem and I would be blank meets blank in the underworld. And I would fill in the blank. So they had, Mickey Mouse, they had Nixon. They just had, my idea of teaching a poetry writing workshop is to have people so excited when they hear other kids' poems, making them laugh. I wrote a Substack piece, I think just today, saying the best people to teach are kids because they don't care about the literary magazine, and older people because they're not looking to get published. They have the best time. 7-year-olds and 70-year-olds.
Yeah. Well, have you had any trouble like with that gap in between? Because there's a self-consciousness, there's an effort that really gets in the way of being creative. And I think that's what so many people struggle with. We might have talked about this before, but when we were doing the Young Poets anthology, it was those 7-year-olds that were brilliant. And then they'd get up to age maybe 8 or 9 or 10, they'd be good. And then they'd just fall off a cliff and become completely self-conscious. It's like a
Yeah.
whole like level of thinking actually that changes. You become so self-aware of your own thoughts and what people think of your own thoughts that you can't be creative anymore. And I guess once when you're older, you don't care what people think about you either. So I guess the key is probably don't care about what people think.
Yeah, I don't care very much either. They're going to think what they're going to think. If they love me, they love me. And I love to be loved. So those are the people I cling to.
Yeah. Well, another question here. This is Leslie Ann Skechterson. She says, is your writing process different for writing a book compared to a poem? How much of it do you know you will write, or do you just let the characters take over? Which is an interesting thing, because we see characters in a sort of process. It feels like it could be a novel type process. You're putting two characters together, Lot's wife and Persephone, in this poem. Is it a similar process, or is there a big difference when you have to have a whole big plot and things to worry about?
I usually don't have a whole big plot. I usually have an idea of how it will end. It's exciting to me to get up and write my 4 pages a day, wondering what will happen next. And I've left myself leeway. I haven't ended on the chapter, and then I'm staring at the famous blank page. I've got the momentum to sort of help me through. So I'm not sure if that answers Leslie's question, but can you rephrase it for me? I'll take another stab at it.
Well, let's see. So she says, is it different between the two? And do you know you will write, or how much of it do you know you will write? So is I guess what she's really asking is how much. You said you have the ending, sort of an idea of that, and
Yeah.
it's maybe, is it more like I don't know where I'm going with a poem, and with a novel, it's like I don't know how I'm going to get there to that ending. Would you say that's the difference, maybe?
Maybe. Thinking about it, I'm glad I asked you to repeat it, and for Leslie too. I lie in bed before I go to sleep if I'm writing prose, and I figure out where I'm going to go in the next few pages. I do that every night. So if I'm on page 17, I'll get to 21. But I've thought about it, I've brooded about it, I've asked for help from the dream gods, you know, I want any help I can get, but I go in 4-page increments. And I almost never, I don't believe in writer's block. I think that's nonsense. If you're writing anything, no matter how poor, you're not blocked.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice too. We got two poems left. Let's hear "Now Playing" next.
Okay. Um, I had a girlfriend in high school who worked at the little theater in my hometown, which is Collinsville, Illinois. And the theater was named Miners Theater. Um, and I would go pick her up at the like maybe an hour into the film when the box office had closed, and we'd go out. We'd go to A&W or whatever. This poem called Now Playing comes from something I saw in the newspaper. You'll see what it is rather than me tip you off. Now Playing. And again, this is not gender specific, but in my mind, it's a young woman, probably because of the girlfriend. I work behind the counter. Now and then pick a dead fly off a box of milk duds. I let my friends in for free, hand over some red vines and yesterday's popcorn. Mr. Abbott doesn't care. His daughter died young, and her name, Darla, was on the marquee for months. Hollywood is all about love and sorrow, often in technicolor. But movies end, patrons yawn, reach for their purses and umbrellas. Darla is back up tonight. And this is what happens when Mr. Abbott dreams. Her bicycle is parked outside, sometimes covered with rain, sometimes snow, rain dripping from the silver handlebars, the little bell tarnished but ready.
Yeah, another great little poem with a great image to end on. That was "Now Playing" by Ron Koertge from his new book Pandora's Kitchen. And that reminds me of I don't know if we talked about this before, Ron, but you have an Oscar nominated short, Negative Space.
Yes.
Can you tell us how that came to be? I think it's every poet's dream maybe to have. We had Win Cooper on, whose poem became a Sheryl Crow song famously, but it's very rare that a poet
That's
gets to have a
nice.
poem
Yeah.
become something
Yeah.
outside of poetry. So how did that happen?
Like most things, good luck and right place at the right time. The two people who did the stop animation to make the short film, Rue and Max, someone in France sent them the prose poem, Negative Space. They were taken with it. They emailed me, asked if they could use it and how much would I charge. And I said, you can have it. And they said, thank you, and we'll be in touch. And then I forgot about it. A few months later, they wrote and said, we've been going to one film festival after another, and Negative Space always wins. We're a couple of festivals away from Oscar time.
Wow.
Sure enough, they got enough cred, they got enough wins. They came to Hollywood. They came to Red Hen so we could meet. We went up and talked to them. They were children, according to them. They were in their 30s, I think. Bianca and I got to go downtown, got to hear all of the things that's shown again. I was introduced, blah, blah, blah. And of course, we lost to Kobe Bryant. Everybody was going to lose to Kobe Bryant. We knew it,
Hmm.
like the favorite stumbling out of the gate at the races. But it was terrific. I mean, it was fun. I mean, it was high energy. People were happy. I got to sign people's programs. It was really great.
Yeah. So did you have any input in how it would appear, or you just said, "Oh, take the poem," and then you saw the final product?
Well, they told me what they were, that
Hmm.
they were going to enter it's not called stop motion. It's called something else, something that gets an Oscar, but they're short films. Um, I didn't know what it was then. I looked it up. Stop motion is incredibly time consuming. And I just thought, wow, I wouldn't want to do that. I hope that works for you guys. And it did.
Did you have any like worry about letting the poem go and letting it be whatever they want it to be, or
I never worry about stuff like that. Every now and then somebody will write and tell me, oh, I saw somebody named X who stole a line from your poem Y. And I think, take it. I got plenty of poems. Take it.
Yeah. Well, it's a great example too of the like the Pareto distribution and how that plays out. How having more things, putting more things out in the world allows for more possibility, and then you get more things because of that. And so having poems out in the world shared widely, people ask you for stuff and you say okay, and then more people know Ron Koertge's book because of the movie, and it's just letting things go and be free. Only build. It's like not a zero sum game. It's a growth game, and growing is good.
It is a growth game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's see. We have looking if there's any other questions to pass along. Yeah, I think we have one poem left. Ron, do you want to close out with one last poem?
Yes. And appropriately enough, it's the title poem, Pandora's Kitchen. For the record, and I had to look this up, um, everybody knows the story of Pandora and her famous box, which is a mistranslation of the word urn, but now it's a box. Zeus, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask too, just before you read the poem,
Yeah.
why you pick this as the title poem too? I meant to ask that before.
Oh, I think it's probably maybe the spunkiest poem in the collection. Don't you think it's an intriguing title?
It definitely is. It's
Yeah.
that, and it's I think representative of the way you do things in this book too, because it's in that title. Normally you'd expect Pandora's box, but then it's Pandora's kitchen, which you see what comes of that. But it's a twist on your expectation, which so many of these poems are doing.
But frankly, what you just said, could be something that I can take to the bank. I just let's just write something and see what happens. Let's just get a cool title and see what happens. You know, that's what carries me through. I want to know what happens next.
Yeah. Well, let's hear this Pandora's kitchen.
Pandora's kitchen. I was just going to explain really briefly that Zeus created Pandora. And in the Greek myths, Pandora was for Zeus the first woman. And Pandora was a punishment because Prometheus stole fire from the gods, and Zeus hates that. So he created Pandora and planted the urn because he knew she couldn't resist. That's the backstory. But this is not that. This is Pandora's kitchen. It's late. She can't sleep. She's in pajamas and her hair is a mess. She stares at the refrigerator. Inside is yogurt and a head of iceberg lettuce, mustard and mayonnaise, not envy and lust and the other hardships that flew out of the box Zeus gave her as a wedding present. The poet Ovid called it an odious treasure. And it was her destiny to open it, a mistake she had to make. But that doesn't help much in the middle of the night. Hungry, lonely, remorseful, still beautiful, in the light from the small bulb in the back by the low-fat cottage cheese.
That's great. That's Pandora's Kitchen, the title poem from Ron Koertge's new book, and hardcover in my copy, no less. Ron, thanks so much for being a guest today. Always a pleasure talking to you. Always fun, and it really is inspiring reading your poems. It reminds me of like the joy of just sitting down and playing with your imagination and how fun that can be. And so I think it does inspire a lot of people to write too. So really appreciate you for that and for how entertaining these books are.
I hope it's true. I hope people are inspired and I hope they're levitating a little, just an inch or so out of their chairs or couches.
Well, everybody check, but don't fall. We don't have insurance.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Ron. It's always a pleasure. Take care.
Always a pleasure. You too. Take care.
Yeah. So it was Ron Koertge. His new book, of course, is Pandora's Kitchen. You can find all of Ron's work, both his young adult novels, of which he has many, also his books of poetry at ronkoertge.com. That's RONKOERTGE.com, ronkoertge.com. And check out all of his work. And also a Substack he mentioned too, which I'll have to check out too because I wasn't familiar with that. But anyway, we're going to move on to our prompt lines. And the prompt for this week was to write a villanelle. So put it on the screen this way. Write a villanelle that involves a trip. So Katie and I went on a trip over Christmas break and had a lot of fun. And that inspired this prompt, but also to write a villanelle, which is the tricky part. So that is your prompt for this week. If you have a poem that fits, email it first to promptlines@rattle.com. That's promptlines, all one word, @rattle.com, so I can show it on the screen as you read your poems, like we've been showing poems all day on the video. And then go to the Zoom link, which is about to deploy on Facebook and YouTube. If you're watching on X, you got to find YouTube because I don't know how to share it there. But if you find that link, go to the Zoom, but only if you have a poem to share. And remember, if you do, it's a 3-minute max time on camera, about a 1-page poem max as well. We want to make sure we get to as many people as possible and don't start falling asleep. So, it does get to be a late night, so keep in mind, be cognizant of that and consider it to everyone else as we share poems. But please do if you've got one, and we'll be right back with a whole lot more poetry. And we're back. Thanks so much for your patience. We go to our prompt poems editor, creative editor, and my wife, Katie Dozier.
The last one's the hardest to remember.
It's a long list.
It's a lot to say. I mean, yeah. I'm demanding that my accolades are listed, at the beginning.
You gotta explain, and then we just keep adding more, So.
Yes. Well, I really enjoyed that interview, and I think the playfulness is what I take the most. I think from listening to that conversation. So definitely inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. It just I think there is. I think for everybody there's a certain joy you get early on writing stuff. Yes. And you're like, whoa. That was fun where that went, and just playing around with like characters and plots and ideas, and then it gets more and more serious and you kind of forget sometimes. I wrote a few bad YA novels myself, and I think they're really fun to get into, and I think any different type of writing really does, like, everything fuels each other, and so that's exciting too. Yeah So I think that at the start of the prompt lines tonight, we want to talk about how
we're thinking about making some changes to how we do the prompt lines. So if you want to weigh in and you have any suggestions, we're really trying to encourage people who are new to Rattle and new to poetry, even better, to get more involved. And so if you have any ideas, you could email me. My email address is just katie@rattle.com. So go ahead and email me or start talking about it in our Prompt Lines Facebook group or anything, because I'm really open to suggestions and thinking about, I just don't want to take things for granted, think about doing things in new ways. So.
Yeah, well, definitely always good to think about what you're doing.
Yep.
And as Prompt Poems editor still, you do have your decision about stuff, so...
Okay. Well, that sounds menacing.
Menacing.
Very ominous. I feel very powerful.
Yeah. Well, you are. But we do have prompt poems for this week.
Yes, we do.
And it was to write a villanelle that involves a trip.
Yes.
Okay. And so what did you do?
Okay. Gotta be honest, a little bit of a layup to myself. And it should have been to you too, because I knew we were going on a trip. And while I'm hoping for some more creative interpretations than vacations, that is definitely where I went. So we obviously had a really fun time going to London, my favorite city to go visit, and Tim's first time there.
Yeah, my first time, and it was really cool to be in the presence of history, I guess, because so many places don't have that sense of, these buildings have been here for 1,000 years. It's very different. That's
amazing. And then for me too, I mean, my ancestors coming from like just outside of London, I don't know, I feel this sense of home oddly, even though, it's not like I've spent that much time there. So.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely fun to be there. And you got a big Ben of a poem here.
Well, thank you. Okay. All right. So I wrote this on the plane on the way back. My favorite place to write a poem on a plane. So Big Ben. There are some things I must know before I go to London. How many dollars are in a pound? How many swirls were painted by Van Gogh? 2 of the ravens at the tower are named Poe and Edgar. Here Anne Boleyn was uncrowned. There are some things you must know before I go. Now the queue for the lose 100 crows. The Trader's Gate is brick shut and brown. How many worlds were painted by XOXOs? From the London Eye, we watch the Thames flow. Your heartbeat against my ear is my favorite sound. Yes, there are some things I do know before I go, carving my way into the catacombs, ducking low to smell the chalky earth. Even so, we are clouds. Isn't every swirl just a painted version of hello? Dickens kept ravens, and here's one more tableau. Piles of change sleep in Karl Marx's grave. Hell no. There are things I will never know before I go. Like how many poems are painted by the snow.
That's a really interesting one, Katie. And how the rhymes drift into being like a mono-rhyme by the end of Villanelle. So why did you decide to do that?
I wanted it to be about time and the clock being Big Ben. And so I had the goal in writing it that the 2 different rhymes would come together and be the same rhyme by the end. And so then the mono-rhyme at the end would hit like hearing a clock.
Like the donging of the
bell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. And got so many details in.
Thank you. Yeah, those are fun fact trivia. I feel like the whole thing is like the part in Hamilton where he's like, named her feral tomcat after him, and that's true. And he breaks it's like every single part.
We did see Hamilton.
We did also see Hamilton on a related note, but just like I don't know. I love finding out weird things like that. Charles Dickens had a pet raven. The second pet raven is stuffed in the Charles Dickens Museum, by the way. You can see it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I loved about trips too. I love art galleries and museums and old places, and the cemetery thing we went to was cool too.
Highgate Cemetery was amazing.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah. Anyway, so that was a great villanelle.
So did you write about the same trip?
I saw your poem ahead of time, so I definitely need to go a different direction. Yeah. I started to write one about the trip on the plane, but the thing with villanelles is I always want to like write that like Koertge villanelle that's like so like just like bam bam bam.
Yeah.
Like like
we had this debate on the airplane.
We do.
Luckily for the people around us. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like a failed vision of one of those villanelles in the Pantheon that I always try, and I think that like crashes my villanelles every time. But I'll keep trying. It's like one of those, like, I don't know, the
perfect enemy of the good is what I was saying.
It's like the Wile E. Coyote with the wall, and then eventually he'll catch that Roadrunner. Anyway,
I think that's a sad metaphor because he never does, right?
But eventually, did you see every episode? Maybe
No.
one of them he got him. But anyway, so this is mine. I was going for that, which I've tried. It's like my 8th villanelle trying to do this. I tried again. It might have worked the best out of all those 8, though. So anyway, the dance is a color loose title. I don't know if they will change that. The dance. We move so lightly on our feet. It seems as if we'll never stumble. That tripping now has become a treat, a chance to briefly skip a beat and lean our bodies into trouble. But we move lightly on our feet, and trouble makes a dance complete. The crowd will gather, gasp, and grumble. Our tripping now has become a treat. Their breath so close we feel the heat of every hidden hope we tumble. But we move so lightly on our feet, our shoes don't even touch the street, and every slip is spin redoubled. We move so lightly on our feet that tripping's now become a treat. So there you go.
Are you saying you want us to take ballroom dancing lessons?
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe we should do that as part of the show, We could start...
I think it's just because we walked by a dance studio the other night.
Yeah.
You were influenced by all the chandeliers and the sequins. No. Okay.
Do love sequins.
No, the sounds are really beautiful in that.
Well, thank you. All right. So let's see what everybody else has. And first, let's go to Thomas Mixon first.
Well, hello.
Hi.
There.
Hey, Thomas. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too. Okay, so holidays were here, and I was watching the original Frosty on TV,
Nice.
and I had forgotten where he got the hat from. And of course, I had forgotten all about this character. It was from the self-proclaimed evil professor, Hinkle magician, who has this wild dialogue with Santa at the end. No spoilers, but it's a little crazy. And so I wanted to give him a little bit of backstory. I tried to keep it fun, but it got a little more intense than I expected. So,
Great.
all right. So calling hours. We can't control the cards we're dealt, my grandpa says, handing me the deck. I hope you're happy in my broken felt top hat. I was young, so he knelt down, covering my head and neck. We can't control the cards we're dealt, he says again. You look like Roosevelt, he jokes. Got my Social Security check, I hope. You're happy in my broken felt, if you could fake it, he says. His belt's loose by then. Glass full of triple sec you can't control. The cards were dealt in the past, but now I am reliving welts that never healed. What the heck? I hope you're happy. In your broken felt, any missed apologies cannot be dwelt upon. Emptying the hat into your casket. We can't control the cards we're dealt. I hope you're happy in my broken felt.
Yeah. Well, great. Yeah. The thing about the villanelle is so great is that you're like building into that last couplet because you never have, that feeling until the end, and that worked really well.
Yeah,
there.
it progressed so much. Like I think there's some people feel like you can't actually have like a narrative in a villanelle, but I think like when you do, it's even stronger because it's almost like you're moving forward without even realizing you're moving forward in a sense. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Thanks. Thank you.
It was Thomas Mixon with Calling Hours. And next, let's go to Jared Campbell.
Hello.
Hey, Jared.
Hey.
Great to see you.
Good to see you. All right. Bison, grass, poet, words. The bison graze on prairies where I spend the holidays. A swallow strays between two streams of air. The bison graze in ancient ways on ancient fare. I spend the holidays composing praise for them, but they don't care. The bison graze. The sunsets glazed like lotus ware. I spend the holidays with word and phrase. That's neither here nor there. The bison graze. I spend the holidays.
Oh, very cool. And that's very tight with the meter being the 2 beats per line.
Yep. So dimeter and trimeter. So each stanza actually ends up being a unit of ballad meter.
Ah, okay.
And
Yeah.
sometimes rearranged for the purposes of where the refrain is supposed to come.
That's really neat.
Yeah. Well, definitely very interesting and intricate. You can see it, how intricate it is.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing that.
Right. Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
That is Jared Campbell with Bison is to grass as poet is to words. guess you could say it that way. Yeah. Let's go next to Christiana Doucette.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Christiana. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. Hold on, I gotta pull up the poem here on the side. There it is. I try to have it open. Just sometimes it gets a little buried in there. I'm
I
so glad that
understand.
your poem was about your trip, Katie. I was really hoping that it would be.
Oh, well,
And
thanks.
it had so many fun facts in it.
Thanks.
So, mine is about my grandfather again. This one is about a trip that he took, sort of, and I'm going to just jump right into it, I think.
Okay.
So, this is called Locomotive. The place beside the curve where the train slows is where the boys stop to take stock of what is the best place for jumping. Robert throws a glance back through the woods. His stepdad's nose ring lots of shouldn'ts and he ought nots, but the place beside the curve where the train slows muffles reason. The tracks shudder. Through those trees an engine roars and boxcar doors shut. There's the best place for jumping. Robert knows. Davy dashes, crashes wood, catches close the cold handles hold. There in Robert's gut, the place beside the curve where the train slows. Times a taffy pull as Robert's elbows ricochet, a roar as scrabbling hands rut, drop, catch the best place for jumping. He knows a whistle shriek of fear, then joy. Meadows up the clear-cut mountainside. There's no shortcut to the place beside the curve where the train slows, but it's the best for jumping. Robert knows.
Well, very cool. And one of the great things, to do in a villanelle is changing the syntax and moving things around, and good use
I
of
love that
there.
about them. I think they're such a cool form.
Yeah, me too. I definitely do. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing
Thank
that,
you.
Christiana. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's Christiana Doucette with Locomotive, a villanelle. And next, let's go to Sean Aveningo Sanders.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Sean.
Villanelles, boy, one of these days I'm going to get the hang of this. Great exercise. Anyway, I started writing about a recent airport experience. And then I was in the middle of the poem and I realized I was actually writing about a trip that was 14 years ago. So took a trip while I was writing about trips.
Wow, that's really embracing the theme, Sean. Way to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So it was strange. Cross country. I regret to tell you today of all days, though you checked in and arrived on time, your scheduled flight has been delayed. For how long? We wish we could say when we can take off in a friendly sky. Yes, we do regret today of all days, we can't help you find a quicker way home. The crew is working to figure out why your connecting flight has been delayed. We're still waiting for a replacement plane. I tried to book you another flight, but regret there are none today of all days to get you back home in time to say, I love you, Dad, for the very last time. I know, Mom, but my flight is delayed. Attention, travelers, an urgent update. Due to a cold snap, frozen fuel lines, we regret for the rest of today, your connection has been canceled.
Oh, that's a sad story. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I really, though, it's powerful to let the poem just take you in that direction and find out. I mean, that's amazing. You just realize this is actually why is this getting to me so much? Why is this getting to me so much? It's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, thanks for another challenging prompt, Katie. I really
thanks for
enjoyed
writing
it.
it, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Sean Aveningo Sanders with Cross Country. Let's go next to Brian O'Sullivan.
Oh,
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian. Great to see you.
yeah, it's great to be here. So I wrote about a trip, or a poem based on a trip from a long time ago. It's pretty self-explanatory, so I'll jump in. It's called Leprechaun Hunt. I spent the summer seeking leprechauns all over Ireland when I was 6 years old. I looked in hedges, rabbit holes, and lawns. I could have sought some elves, centaurs, or fauns, but I was where the emerald rose gamboled, so I spent the summer seeking leprechauns. I dreamed of them from bedtime until dawn, dwelling in the stories I'd been told. By day, in hedges, rabbit holes, and lawns, I kept on looking until I was sent down to bed. I'd not be satisfied with troll or kobold. I spent the summer seeking leprechauns. I asked my mom if she believed in leprechauns. I'd like to believe, my dear, she told me. I kept on seeking leprechauns. I believed some cereal companies' yarns, that they were stereotypes I'd not been told. Now I know, yet I can't help seeking leprechauns in hedges, rabbit holes, poems, and yarns.
Yeah, well, fun as always. I love some of the rhymes with the gamble.
Gamble. That really brought me back to my poker games where we said gamble, gamble. Thanks, Brian.
You never get to use that word, so it was fun.
Yeah, not enough. Gotta bring it back. Gamble, gamble. Especially in the Ron Koertge episode.
Definitely, yeah. He's a gambler.
I wish I had a Greek myth poem after the Ron Koertge episode.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Brandon O'Sullivan with a leprechaun hunt. Let's go to Amanda Harris next.
All right, so I had some fun with this and decided to talk about the internal sense of travel instead of going to an actual place.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. War Villanelle. Dylan Thomas says, "Do not go gentle. Gentle lines are the work of Satan's men. Skies like Satan are erratic and mental. In our inner spirit, we know ourselves to be judgmental. A monster makes vivid what leaves no amends. Dylan Thomas says, do not go gentle. Acid rain strips what we call environmental. Dirt, blood, and iron take 10. Skies like Satan are erratic and mental. Dictators burn as they grow more temperamental." Hold on, I'm just gonna mute something. All right. "What touches them vanishes in acid, coming again. Dylan Thomas says, do not go gentle. At night, I hear my father, all resentful, say we should live as simply as women. Skies like Satan are erratic and mental. I think we find in war a kind of liquid fentanyl, available by injection. The spirit says amen. Skies like Satan are erratic and mental. Dylan Thomas says, do not go gentle."
Well, very cool referring back to the...
What I think is the second best villanelle.
The second
Do not
best
go
villanelle.
gentle after Elizabeth Bishop's One Art, which I think is...
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you do agree. But I think that was very clever to go straight to it and discuss it so directly to Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. There's Amanda Harris with a War Villanelle. Next, we have Leslie Ann Skechterson.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, great to see you.
Okay, I actually have 3 trips in here
Wow.
of sorts. Okay. Karma in Escalante, for my sweetheart who still hikes with me. I'm always so confident when I speak, explaining how neurons fire and sync. It's simple, I say, laughing tongue in cheek as we hike the wrong trail to Spook Canyon Creek. Unaware your frustration is on the brink. So sure this is right, I confidently speak. Marching on forward, ignoring all critique until you pull out a map. My cheeks turn hot pink. It's simple, you say, laughing tongue in cheek. Excuses fly like the cards in Bezique. You look at me like I'm the missing link, floundering for confidence as I speak, tripping over words or apology technique. But I'll admit my navigation skills stink. Not simple, I sigh, pulling tongue out of cheek, wishing my heart would stop the tears that leak. Stumbling over feet, I face plant when I should have blinked. I'm always so confident when I speak, falling in slow motion, slamming tongue into cheek.
Yeah, well, another cool. The rhymes really refrain and echo in that poem.
Yeah, definitely. I love the energy you brought to it too.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Leslie Ann.
Thanks.
Yeah, Leslie Ann Skekterson with Karma in Escalante. Next, let's go to Jeff Stumpo.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. I'm going to sandbag by saying that I have written much better villanelles than this, but I wrote myself into a corner because I said I'm going to try and pick a definition of trip that nobody else is going to pick.
I appreciate that. That's exactly like if I was writing to my own that's what I would actually do. Like that's the challenge, right? What's the weird version of this?
Yeah, so it's not a great villanelle, but it's a different kind of trip. So,
well, good. All right.
Tripping the trap. Zaba the Rogue, our source of fun times at weekly D&D whenever he rolled a 1-2 punch of the profane and the clever. Zaba the Rogue, our source of fun, stole the loincloth from a goblin chieftain, a fist-large gem, a holy relic. For the sheer joy of it, he plundered. He rolled a 1 in a million friend to us, a 1 in a million character. Zaba the Rogue, our source of fun, last Friday set his tools against a lich's lock, spun the dial and boasted that whenever he rolled, he won. And when it was done, we pooled our loot for the saddest tombstone ever. Zaba the Rogue, our source of fun. He rolled a 1.
It's really funny.
That is, yeah, very entertaining.
That is, that is a very creative take on the prompt, as always, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. See y'all on YouTube.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's Jeff Stumpa with Tripping the Trap. Let's go next to Dick Westheimer.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Dick. Great to see you.
Thank you for bringing Ron on. That's just a treat.
Yeah, always a fan of Ron.
And Katie, as you know, I'm not a fan of change, and so I'm going. So when you talk about like workshopping the prompt lines, I'm thinking, you know what happens when you workshop a poem too much? Just putting my 2 cents in. I think this has done fabulous work to promote Rattle's mission of promoting the practice of poetry. It's really been a great addition. So one note about this poem is that I just started piling in things that were happening for me that day. And this like despair came over me to the point where the poem made me do things I was completely unwanting to do. So here it is, including despair. I just wasn't feeling it until I got halfway through the poem. Choosing to be alone in a time of despair. I mistake a lichened stick for a shotgun shell. Deer tracks pock the path down to the creek. Deb is on an airplane headed to Sanibel. Coyote scat sits plump on the trail. I saw then smelled the oily stench by the deer stand. I climbed deep in the woods where I mistook a stick for a shotgun shell. I'm afraid of heights. Deb is not. This is her realm of solitude, a place she fears nothing, not even beasts. But I am glad she's on a plane headed to Sanibel, where our grandkids are. She won't have to tell where Poppy is. They'll know he's not on the beach, but not why he mistakes a stick for a shotgun shell. I climbed from the stand where I felt compelled to probe the scat with my finger, found fur and bones. It reeked when I touched it to my nose. I am glad Deb is off to Sanibel. There's a meme on my screen, a new crack in the Liberty Bell. Tears come unbidden like hot wax on my cheek. Why did I mistake a lichened stick for a shotgun shell? Why am I glad Deb's on a plane to Sanibel?
Yeah, well, tons of movement in that poem, Dick. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love all the turns.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all, and I'll be interested to see what suggestions show up on the front page.
Thanks very much, Dick.
Yeah, thanks, Dick.
See y'all.
Yeah, it was Dick Westheimer with Choosing to Be Alone in a Time of Despair. All right, and next let's go to Michelle Rosario.
Hi.
Hey, Michelle, great to see you.
I have to be honest, when I saw that the prompt line was about a villanelle, I was like, oh no. Because I write free verse, and writing in any type of form is kind of, for me, like dancing on a straight jacket. So I have to like maneuver it and see what I can come up with. And this is actually my first villanelle. So I have to think about the topic so I wouldn't get lost in the form. So I went with something that a friend of mine told me. I love to travel, and one of my friends that I actually met in one of my trips, she told me, you're not a tourist, you're a traveler. And that got me going, thinking, how are we tourists in our own lives versus being travelers? How is it that we just go by life instead of just exploring ourselves and exploring the outside world with a different perspective?
That's really interesting.
So, and the title, for anybody who's a fan of Dave Matthews Band, they will get the reference of the title, because I was just walking to the gym and I'm like, oh, I think this will be amazing. So my title is Tripping Villanelle. And I start with a quote that is from the song Tripping Villies, but Dick told me that it's in the Bible too. So I learned that too. So this is Tripping Villanelle. In every trip, there's a hidden lesson. Even as I stumble down my mother's womb, new tourist or new traveler, that is the question. My chancla caught up in the roots of my depression, taking me down an abyss where the sky is gloom. Somehow, with every trip, there is a hidden lesson. Across time zones, following a stolen checklist with obsession, while my own dreams fight against intruders for some room. Who wins, tourist or traveler? That is the question. Daring to climb mountains, smiling without suppression, every sight, smell, and sound bringing awareness to bloom. Forever student with every trip, with every hidden lesson. No gray hair grown in vain through this conquering progression. Between gains and failures, my youth has been consumed. Half tourist and half traveler, that is quite the question. I won't cry at the thought of my life's concluding session. Already grateful for every second until I'm carried to my tomb. Even in my last trip, there'll be a hidden lesson. No more a tourist, but a traveler without a question.
Well, really interesting, concept in that poem, and well thought out too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. It was Michelle Rosario with Tripping Villanelle. And I'm a huge Dave Matthews fan.
Well, we saw Dave Matthews Band in concert. It was really fun.
We did, yeah.
We did, yeah.
Let's see. Next, let's go to Susan Spears. So I think it's been on before, but not for a bit.
Yes, I was on once before.
Yeah, well, great to see you again, Susan.
Before, I think.
Yeah. So what do you have for
nice
us today?
to see you.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do a Poets Respond and a prompt lines, but I didn't make it for Friday night at midnight. So
well, we
this is called Time Travel.
Okay.
Thanks. Time travel. It's a short trip from one year to the next. The turning of a page, the hall clock's chime. There are no layovers. This flight's direct. It's a champagne kiss, last year's vertex turning on a dime, one stitch in time. It's a short trip from one year to the next. It's a single breath, one baby step, your fondest memory flashing through your mind. There are no layovers. This flight's direct. It's a mere sip, an instant one-word text, the second that it takes to press rewind. It's a short trip.
Susan, I'm sorry to say it's starting to break up.
From one year to the next.
Yeah, the video stream is a little low. Can you turn your video off and maybe that'll help finish out the poem?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Are you there? Okay, well maybe I'll finish. I'll just finish out the poem for you. Yeah. Because it's still breaking up a little bit. Okay, so it's a single breath, one baby step. Your fondest memory flashing through your mind. There are no layovers. This flight's direct. It's a mere sip, an instant one-word text.
Yeah. Where should I?
Oh, I think it's breaking up too much. I'm just going to read the rest. Okay? Okay. Yeah, that's the second that it takes to press rewind. It's a short trip from one year to next. Forget about that luggage that you checked. Travel light. Leave some things behind. There are no layovers. This flight's direct. Get on board where space and time connect. May the sun and moon and stars align. It's a short trip from one year to the next. There are no layovers. This flight's direct. Yeah, it's a great. I love it's a short trip from one year to next. Like having a refrain that's a really memorable line.
Yeah,
always helps
that
the form
definitely is.
too. Yeah, and sorry for the breaking up on the connection, but it wasn't stable enough. Let's go next to Chelsea McGlynn.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey, Chelsea. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. So I wrote this poem and then I forgot that it was supposed to be about a trip. So I shoved a trip in there at the last minute. See if you could spot
way
it.
to be honest.
A little easier probably to do it that way than I forgot it was supposed to be villanelle at the last minute.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've written this poem similarly before, and it's never quite worked. So I took this free verse poem I wrote and made it a villanelle. So the week between Christmas and New Year's. What a twist if the living could haunt the dead. We, the living, would sleep peacefully. How many times have we heard it said that our loved ones live on inside our heads and hearts as long as we recite dutifully their names? But if the living can haunt the dead, they might groan at every fresh memory instead, their rest disturbed, dug up from their graves daily. How many times have you heard your name said, Bloody Mary? Every trip to the mirror brings dread. At our call, you peer out at us begrudgingly. You know that the living can haunt the dead. We skim fingertips on the glass, turning red from the stains of your unwashed bodily fluids. We heard not a word of what you just said, Mary. Can we come sit on your deathbed, Mary? Mary, watch. Mary, hear. Mary, tell us again how the living still haunt the dead. No, we don't remember what you just said.
Wow, yeah, very cool. And again, great refrain lines and so much of the London coming in. You know?
That's true.
I actually had to say I was last week years old when I learned that Bloody Mary was Marie Antoinette. I don't know how I never figured that out until just my history is not great. But yeah, really cool.
Well, I like how you worked in the trip to the mirror. The spirit. I was like, where is Trip going to come in? Very much right there. That was the moment. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done. Thanks, Chelsea.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was Chelsea McGlynn with the week between Christmas and New Year's. Let's go next to Matt Joseph.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey, Matt.
Hey there. Great to see you. So this was my first ever villanelle, and I decided to use another definition of the word trip as well. So
nice.
Just leave it at that. So, middle of the pack. When I catch my toe and fall flat on my face, the earth rising up to meet me damn quick, that's when I know I'm in the right place. Runners pull away from me in the race, bile scaling my throat, my blood become thick. When I catch my toe and fall flat on my face, and I feel myself fall from a cliff off the pace, and there's nothing left in my bag of one trick, that's when I know I'm in the right place. To leave hallelujah and step into grace is to savor the flavor of eating a stick, when I catch my toe and fall flat on my face. Most dances aren't victory, few are disgrace. In betweens where I most like to shimmy and kick, that's when I know I'm in the right place. The struggle is all and everything, just in case it's not clear where I stand, what the hell is my shtick. When I catch my toe and fall flat on my face, that's when I know I'm in the right place.
Yeah, another really cool refrain. I think that
Yeah,
the villanelle
definitely.
is showing off those refrains.
Yes. So Matt, how do you feel about writing a villanelle then?
You know what? I love it. I think I need to do more poems with structure. I find it kind of a freedom and constriction. It's sort of I need to do more of it. It really loosens up some associations and word. I mean, I'd like to do more stuff like that. So yeah, it was fun. It was really fun.
Well, that's great. That's how I feel about formal verse also. You summed it up well for me too.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. Love it.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Bye.
Matt Joseph with Middle of the Pack. Next up is Naivete Karthik.
Hello.
Hey, Nivi, great to see you.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Great, yeah.
Belated New Year wishes to you guys and everybody else.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
Thank you. I took a very London adjacent place. Seems to be a chock full UK prompt lines today.
Nice.
So I took a trip back last year to my alma mater, and that's what I decided to write about here. It's called Dreaming Spires. Dreaming Spires. In Oxford's halls where ancient whispers blend, I trek through dreams on cobbled paths anew, on a trip back to the place where time can bend beneath the spires, where history's threads can extend through old cobblestone courtyards under skies of painted blue. In Oxford's halls where ancient whispers blend, the river winds while quiet moments send reflections of a world both old and true on a trip back to the place where time can bend. With every step, a story transcends the lush gardens and bridges kissed by dew. In Oxford's halls where ancient whispers blend the past and present, a soft intertwine. Time's gentle hand guides me through on a trip back to the place where time can bend. Echoes of the past softly call, their timeless songs put gentle and profound on a trip back to the place where time can bend. This is Oxford's halls where ancient whispers blend. Thank you.
Yeah, well, very cool. Yeah, definitely.
If we'd had more time, we would have gone to Oxford. We wanted to. We're like, oh, we don't have enough time to go there too. There's too much to do in London.
Yeah,
but
so much to do.
Yeah,
it would have been fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be there for a long time to come. So
That's a good point. Thanks.
I mean, it's been there since 1046, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
All right. Good.
Yeah, thanks, Nivi.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you too. Have a good night.
Thank you.
That was Naivete Karthik with Dreaming Spires. And next, let's go to Kimberly Gibson-Tran.
Hello.
Hey, great to see you. It's been a bit.
I know I work on Monday nights, so I usually can't, but I decided to stay a little late and I just really liked what I made. So, and I enjoy villanelles, and this one I feel like I was kind of lucky on. So, I've been binge watching Emily in Paris this Christmas. I don't really know why I like it. I'm going to be honest, and this is not I don't know that this is a recommendation, but there's just something about it and I'm sucked in. So my poem is called The Trip That Is Emily in Paris. Why are you watching Emily in Paris? My husband asks. He can't seem to understand what my heart wants is an embarrassing one-sided friendship with a Shanghai heiress and to wear finger gloves on one-night stands. Why are you watching? Emily, in Paris, we can forever tourist, don garish blazers that trip up men in Saint-Tropez. Grand, what my heart wants. Is an embarrassing tryst with a teenager a problem? Where is the harm if his mother doesn't reprimand? Why? Are you watching? Emily in Paris is Emily in Chicago. though she changes her hair in each season, which is significant. I don't plan what my heart wants. It's embarrassing. Give me champagne problems. The chef, glaring endgame eyes. Forget reviews that panned. Why aren't you watching Emily in Paris? What the heart wants is to be embarrassed.
Well, that's great. Very fun. And definitely will bring more viewers to the show, I think.
My mom loves that show. I'm gonna have to show her that poem. She'll think it's fantastic.
It's extremely vapid. Again, like someone needs to explain to me why I like it.
I think people need to be more okay with, like, it's okay to have an escapist show like that you're just watching. It doesn't have to be every single time. It's like, well, I learned this during the documentary. You know, it's okay. You know, speaking of which, too, I thought of you because we almost went to a Bridgerton tea in London, but it was not. There were no tickets left.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, one day. But so good to see you guys.
Great to see you.
I'm gonna go listen to all of this now, and yeah,
great. Well, thanks so much.
Great to see you. Thanks for staying late at work to call in. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, it's Kimberly Gibson Tran with the trip that is Emily in Paris. Let's see. Next, let's go to. I think that might wrap it up. We had Alice. I Am Alice was here, and now has dropped out, unfortunately. Well, anyway, that's going to be it for the show in that case. Let's see what Ted Guevara had for us. He was here in the chat. He's got. Oops. Let me see if he said anything. My aim here is to say simple, says Ted. Okay.
Good aim in general, Ted.
Definitely good, yeah. Heart of Paper. Here we go. Heart of Paper. Fold me into origami. Let my creases be known. Overlay sky with a sea. Let civil wind pass gently. Shape my body and let it be flown. Fold me into origami. Paper my arms with decree. They'll fly on their own to seek that ancient key that vents graces openly. Light flesh amidst light bone, fold me into origami. Some days scar identity, still pulp me into the ground unsown. I'd rise from crumpled debris. Slip me in the sky and see smooth creases, risk the unknown. Fold me into origami, make it color, make me captive, then free. Well, a cool poem again. Thanks so much for sharing that, Ted. Heart of Paper by Ted Bernal Guevara. And that is going to... Oh, wait, we have Allison Verses. Let's go to Allison Verses for her poem. If it works.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi.
Alice. Yeah, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming back.
How are you?
Yeah. Hey.
Great.
I'm fine. How about you?
Good. So what do you have for us tonight?
Well, today I have another poem, which is about the poisonous garden. Isn't my picture good?
Yeah, it's great. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well, I'm not gonna talk about, like, it's my journey, but let's say it's the journey of a butterfly, and you're gonna find out when I read this, right?
Okay.
Okay. So, the poisonous gardens. I've been left like a caterpillar, torn from her quiet little home, suddenly commanded to fly so high. She drifts from garden to garden, yet every flower carries the familiar scent, and each time she dares to choose one, she nearly dies from the same poison. She keeps moving, very convinced that the next garden will be different. I've been left like a caterpillar, torn from her quiet little home, suddenly commanded to fly so high, and finds again and again those who are held together instead by their roots. Then comes the time when she recognizes the pattern. She drifts from garden to garden, yet every flower carries a familiar scent, but her wings are already weakened. So how could she keep believing the journey was forward, falling for the same people, drinking from the same poison in every chosen flower?
Well, thanks so much for sharing that.
Well, between brackets, it's my first vanillian something.
Villanelle.
Yeah, and I've never done something like this before, and I just remember it last minute, like literally when I participated with you.
Oh, well, great.
So
Well, we're
I
glad
had
you're
nothing to
here.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thanks
the
so much.
idea, I think it's good, but otherwise, I don't know.
No, well, it's wonderful, and thanks so much for sharing.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
So that was I Am Alice. I think you find Alice on TikTok, I believe, right? Yeah. All right, so that's going to wrap up the prompt lines for tonight, I believe. Did we get everybody? And one more scan through. Yeah, we're good. So let's close out with a haiku. Katie, what do you have for your haiku for us?
I have.
Here we go.
Wearing the heels anyway a misstep.
So that one I could see happening as we walk around the cobblestone streets and see heels.
The cobblestones were so intense in London. I love them, but they were intense. They were not stiletto friendly. I'll say that much.
Yeah. And so for mine, we were there on New Year's Eve, and so this is a little part. Hidden behind the walls, fireworks. There you go. That is a little haiku from this week. So thanks so much for everybody who joined the prompt lines and listened to Ron Koertge. Fun guest to have this week. So next week's prompt is going to be what, Katie?
We are going to write a poem that explores something left behind. Include as many tactile details as possible.
Well, that should be interesting. And of course, appealing to the senses is so important. So
yeah, it definitely
give
is.
us some more senses to
I
appeal
feel
to.
like that's sort of I don't know, there's a way in which it feels kind of wintry to appeal to your tactile senses, I think, more. So I'm really excited to see what comes up. Everybody comes up with it next
Yeah, that's a great point. I just automatically think of like mittens.
I know. That's what everybody thinks of first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
Right.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
that's
yeah.
funny. All right. Well, thanks so much. Yeah, that sounds great. Write a poem that explores something left behind.
Yeah.
Including as many tactile details as possible. That's your prompt for next week. And next week's guest is going to be Jen Koertge. Now, Jen is the founding editor and co-editor of Swim, the wonderful online magazine. She also has a book out, Inheritance with a High Error Rate. That's one of I think her fourth or fifth book. But she's a past Poets Respond poet. Very fun talking to her about her book, editing, a whole bunch of other stuff. That's Rattlecast number 325, the regular time, Monday, January 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you there. Hope you have a great week. In the meantime, we'll talk to you later. Good night.
Good night.